O motorista revolu a tudo apenas 10 segundos antes da hirana ser assinado. When my Uncle Richard saw the driver walk into the boardroom, he went so pale the lawyer asked if he needed a doctor. He was the one who always laughed. Anna is weak. She doesn't understand anything. Now he was shaking, because Richard was 10 seconds away from making me sign fake papers that would steal 100% of my father's inheritance, all while claiming I was unstable. But what he didn't know was that George, the driver, didn't just bring the truth. He brought the audio from the car's security camera. But let me tell you how I ended up in that room, with my hand shaking, ready to sign away my own life. My dad was my world. He wasn't just a father. He was my best friend. He built a logistics empire from scratch, with sweat and honesty, and I was his only heir. My mother passed away when I was young, so it was just us two against the world. 6 months ago, the diagnosis came. Pancreatic cancer. The word sounded like a death sentence in the doctor's office. It was fast. It was brutal. And that's when the vultures showed up. My Uncle Richard, my father's brother, and his wife, Sophia. They lived in another city, and in 20 years, I could count on one hand the times I'd seen them. They never called at Christmas. Never. But when they heard about the illness, they moved into our house. To help, they said, to take care of you and your father, dear Sophia, with her expensive perfume that seemed to cling to the house, fired my dad's private nurse. I'll take care of him myself, she said, with a smile that never reached her eyes. Richard started hanging around my dad's office. Just to keep things running, Anna. You need to focus on your father. I was so broken, so focused on savoring those last few days with my dad, that I didn't see the poison spreading. The only employee they couldn't get rid of was George. George had been my father's driver for over 20 years. He was more than an employee. He was a silent fortress. He drove my dad to every meeting, picked me up from school, and heard every secret and dream my father had inside that car. My dad trusted him more than his own brother. If you've ever felt that loyalty sometimes comes from where you least expect it, like this video and subscribe to the channel, because you'll understand exactly what happened next. My dad died 30 days ago. The last month was a fog of pain and morphine. On his deathbed, he held my hand with his weak, bony one. He asked for George to come into the room. He looked at us both, his eyes sunken but still holding that flame. He said, "Take care of each other. The rest is just paper. George, take care of my girl." George nodded, tears in his eyes. "With my life, sir." Richard and Sophia were in the corner of the room watching. I saw a look pass between them that I didn't understand at the time. It was impatience. As soon as my dad was gone, the world collapsed. And they moved fast. Richard and Sophia took control of everything. They told me my dad's trusted lawyer, Dr. Morales, had suffered a stroke and was unreachable. "Don't worry, dear," Richard said. "I've brought in an excellent lawyer to handle everything." At the same time, Sophia started managing my health. "You're too shaken, Anna. You need to rest." She started giving me sedatives for the grief, white pills 3 times a day. I wasn't just grieving. I was being drugged. My mind became a fog. I felt confused, slow, like I was walking underwater. I would cry for hours and then sleep for days. They said I was too unstable to handle the estate, emotionally incapable. The first clear sign I ignored was when Richard showed me the new will. It was a week before that fateful meeting. He called me into my father's office, sat in my father's chair. The arrogance was so thick it was suffocating. "Anna," he said, with a false, pitying voice, "your father, in his last moment of clarity, realized you weren't fit to run the empire. He made a change to the will." He showed me the paper, a document I could barely focus on. It said that 100% of the control of the companies passed to Richard. As protector, I would get a protection allowance until I was mentally sound. "It's for your own good, dear. Your father just wanted to protect you from yourself." I was so drugged, so broken, that a part of me almost believed him. I looked at my father's signature. It looked like his handwriting, but something felt wrong. But I still didn't know what George was doing in the shadows. George saw everything. To Richard and Sophia, he was furniture, a driver, an insignificant employee. They kept him around because they needed someone to drive them to their secret meetings, to the bank, to the new lawyer. They didn't know that George was my father's eyes and ears. He saw Sophia in the kitchen late at night. She wasn't giving me the sedatives the doctor prescribed. She was crushing other pills, stronger ones, and mixing them into my orange juice every morning. Just an extra calmative for the poor girl. He heard her tell Richard on the phone. He saw Richard in the office, laughing about how I was weak, just like her mother. He heard Richard mock my father, saying the sentimental old man was finally useful. Then, the most devastating sign, George saw Sophia bring in a doctor I had never seen before. A man with a leather briefcase who wouldn't look me in the eye. He talked to me for 5 minutes, while I could barely form a sentence. Afterward, George heard the conversation in the garden. The fake doctor said, "The mental incapacity report is ready. She's delusional, not responsive. Any judge will believe it." George knew they were building a cage for me, and he knew he needed irrefutable proof. The opportunity came 3 days before the signing. It was a rainy Tuesday. Richard and Sophia called for George. "We have an important meeting with the lawyer and the doctor. Take us downtown." George drove them. Their fatal mistake? Arrogance. They didn't want to meet in an office. Believing it was the safest, most private place. They held the meeting inside my father's luxury car, the armored Mercedes, parked on a side street. "Stay out here, George, and turn the car off," Richard ordered. George turned the car off. But he didn't need the car to be on. They forgot. They had no idea. My dad, paranoid about security after a kidnapping attempt years ago, had installed the most advanced security system in his personal car. 360-degree audio and video cameras, which recorded even with the car off and sent everything to a secure server. George sat in the front seat, quiet as a statue, and on his phone, connected to the system that only he and my father knew existed. He listened live. He heard Richard's voice. "The plan is perfect. She signs on Friday, transferring control. On Monday, we use the doctor's report here and check her into the clinic in Switzerland. The report guarantees she stays there for at least 2 years. Long enough." Sophia's voice. "And the allowance? It's too much." The fake lawyer's voice. "Don't worry. Once she's declared incompetent, the allowance is managed by you. The money never leaves your account." They laughed. All 3 of them. Inside the car of the man they pretended to mourn, George didn't move. He didn't breathe. He felt the hatred rise, cold and controlled. He had 2 choices. 1. Stay quiet. The week before, Richard had offered him a generous retirement of $100,000 to disappear after everything was settled. 2. Honor the man who paid for both of his kids' college educations. The man who sat with him in the kitchen, not the dining room. The man who, 20 years ago, gave him a job when no one else would. George made his choice. He spent that night copying the audio and video files from the server. The entire conversation. The faces of the fake doctor and the fake lawyer. The plan for Switzerland. Everything. He made 3 copies on thumb drives. 1, he kept in his pocket. The 2nd, he hid in a safe deposit box at the bank. The 3rd, he sent by overnight courier with clear instructions to a secure address, the office of Dr. Morales, my father's real lawyer. George had called him. Dr. Morales hadn't had a stroke. He was perfectly healthy. Richard and Sophia had simply threatened him and locked him out, telling him he was fired. George and Dr. Morales set the trap. The day of the signing arrives. Friday, the grand boardroom in my father's company. I felt like a puppet. Sophia had dressed me, put makeup on me, like I was a broken doll. The morning's pills had been strong. The world was spinning. Richard and Sophia looked at me with that fake pity. The fake lawyer, in his expensive suit, and the fake doctor, as a witness to my mental health, were there. The fake lawyer slid the papers across the mahogany table. "Sign here, Anna, and all this headache goes away. Your uncle will take care of everything." Richard was smiling. He had one. I picked up the pen. A heavy gold Mont Blanc. It was my father's. The irony was sick. My hand was shaking. I looked at the dotted line. I just wanted the pain to stop. I just wanted the world to stop spinning. The pen touched the paper. 10 seconds left before my life was over. And that's when the boardroom door opened. George walked in, calm. In his uniform, Richard shot up from his chair. his face red with fury. "What are you doing in here? This is a private meeting. Security, get this man out of here." George ignored Richard. He looked directly at me. That look gave me a strength I hadn't felt in months. He said, "Miss Anna, your father would not sign this." Then he turned to Richard. "Mr. Richard, you won't be signing. I have the audio." Sophia let out a sharp, ugly laugh. "Audio? You're a stupid driver. You have nothing. Get out of here or I'll call the police for trespassing." "No need to call them, ma'am. They're already on their way." George, with the calm of a saint, pulled his cell phone from his pocket, and he pressed play. Richard's voice filled the silent room. His voice, crisp and clear. Double quotes. As soon as she signs, we check her into the clinic in Switzerland. The report guarantees. The room froze. Richard's face went from red to white. The fake lawyer started to sweat. Sophia stopped laughing. That sound. The sound of his voice. Clear and cruel. It cut through the fog of the drugs like a lightning bolt. I felt pure adrenaline flood my body. I looked at Sophia. I looked at Richard. And for the first time, I didn't see family. I saw monsters. I put the pen down. "Turn that off." Richard screamed, lunging for George. The fake lawyer tried to grab the phone. George took one calm step back. "Too late, Mr. Richard." And that's when the door opened again. This time, it wasn't just George. It was two uniformed police officers. And between them, Dr. Morales, my father's real lawyer, healthy, furious, and holding a briefcase. Justice tastes sweet, doesn't it? If you're cheering with me, like this video and subscribe right now, because the best part of the revenge is just getting started. "What is the meaning of this?" Richard stammered, looking at the police. "Dr. Morales spoke, his voice like thunder. "It means you're under arrest, Richard, for fraud, coercion, forgery, administration of harmful substances, and attempted false imprisonment. You have no proof." Sophia shrieked, her face twisted with hate. "We have everything," George said, holding up his phone. "The audio you heard was just a trailer, but Dr. Morales has the high-definition video from the car's internal camera." The fake doctor tried to run for the door. An officer blocked him. The fake lawyer slumped into his chair, putting his head in his hands. Richard and Sophia were handcuffed. Right there, in my father's boardroom, Sophia was spitting curses. Richard was in shock. Mute. As they were led away, Dr. Morales walked over to me. He took the fake papers from the table and tore them in half. "This is garbage," he said. "This," he said, pulling a document from his briefcase, "is the original will. 100% to you, Anna, just as your father always wanted." I looked at George. He was standing by the door, as always. The silent fortress. I ran and hugged him. And for the first time in 6 months, I cried. But not from sadness. I cried from relief. Arresting them was just the beginning. That was justice. The revenge came later. In the following days, the fog of the pills cleared from my system. And what was left wasn't sadness. It was a cold, sharp as steel anger. I took control of the companies the next day. I sat in my father's chair. And it fit perfectly. My first act. A full forensic audit. Covering the last 5 years. Dr. Morales warned me that Richard and Sophia would have good lawyers. That they would try to claim the audio was illegal. But they didn't count on the final bomb. The audit revealed something even George didn't know. Richard didn't start stealing when my father got sick. He had been stealing from my father for 5 years. He had a ghost company in the Cayman Islands. He was overbilling logistics contracts and siphoning off millions year after year. He wasn't trying to steal my inheritance because he needed it. He was doing it out of pure greed. The plan to declare me incompetent wasn't plan A. It was a plan B to cover the hole from the audit he knew I would eventually run. He didn't just try to steal my future. He was stealing from my father's present while he was still alive. I used the evidence from the audit. The criminal case for fraud and coercion was sealed. But I added the civil suit. They didn't just lose the inheritance they never had. They were convicted, in a trial that lasted 6 months, to pay back every single cent they stole. With interest, the total? $22 million. They lost everything. The house, the cars, the reputation. I made sure to visit Richard in prison. 1 year later, I needed to see him. He was thin. His hair was gray. His eyes hollow and dull. He was wearing the orange prison jumpsuit. He saw me through the glass and his eyes filled with hate. He picked up the phone. I picked up mine. "You destroyed the family," he whispered. "All this because of a driver." I waited. I let the silence hang in the air. "You're wrong," I said, my voice calm. "I didn't destroy anything. The family was already rotten. You were the cancer. You destroyed yourself with arrogance. You underestimated my father in life. You underestimated me in my grief. And you underestimated the man who served you for 20 years. George was loyal. You don't even know what that word means." I looked at him one last time. "Enjoy your meal, Uncle." I hung up the phone and walked away. Today, 3 years later, I've rebuilt the companies. They're bigger than ever, George. He's no longer a driver. He's the head of security and logistics for the entire group. And he's a member of the advisory board. My first act as CEO, after the audit, was to execute an order my father had left in a personal letter for me, held by Dr. Morales. "If anything happens to me, give George 5% of the company stock." He's the only brother I ever really had, Richard and Sophia. They are serving maximum sentences for all their crimes. They will get out of prison old, broke, and owing every last penny to the company they once tried to steal. I learned the hard way that true loyalty isn't measured by blood, but by character, and that arrogant people always underestimate the person serving the coffee, or the one driving the car. I want to know from you in the comments. Do you think family is defined by blood or by actions? Have you ever had a George in your life, someone who proved that loyalty is worth more than any last name? Tell me your story.